Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kauschi. Niaga Spotlight goes to the week in business and future affairs, market watch, industries, analysis and insights. We've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. Well, today on Analysis, we're taking a deep dive into all things logistics technology and how that's actually helping to empower Malaysian SMEs. Now, just a couple of factoids before we get started with the discussion. So Malaysia's overall freight and logistics market value is estimated at 116.9 billion ringgit just as of 2024, and it's actually estimated that this market sector is going to be growing to about 147.6 billion ringgit during the forecast period, which is until the 2029. So that's a CAGR of almost 4.7%. Very interesting things are happening in this space with, of course, more logistics tech startups actually joining in this sector as well. So joining me online today, I actually have the pleasure of speaking with Clarence Leong, who's founder and CEO of Easy Parcel, who is joining us for this discussion on Niaga Spotlight. Good morning, Clarence. How are you doing? Thank you so much for making time for us on Niaga Spotlight.
Hey, good morning, and a really pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So Clarence, let's get started off with the discussion with me asking you a little bit about Easy Parcel's journey. So 2024 is also a very big year for all of you at the Easy Parcel Group, with it being a decade so far in the industry. Tell me a little bit more about what the stories have been so far, especially those emerging from the Malaysian SMEs who make up a bulk of your customer market.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy to share that as well. Over the past 1 decade, we have been serving more than 1.5 million customer base in Malaysia. And literally, we are the man behind the scene on all this success of all these small micro SMEs. And it all started from the simple thing, as in the word easy, right? In our brand that it said it's all to simplify logistic for all the micro SMEs to make their life easy, and by removing all this complexity of deliveries, and just thinking of it as is having a few kids to take care at the same time, right, as a parent. And each of them required special attention and different needs, right? Just if we are not keeping ourselves up the pitch, a few of them might end up in the wrong pasar malam, right? So same goes in managing multiple courier services individually. And there is so much for all these micro SMEs founders to do behind the scene, apart from the logistics segment. So how can we actually help them behind the scene? And we use cut through complexity and all this business comparison so that they can actually choose based on rates, based on service level, and even understanding all the strengths from all these different courier services. Like, for example, each of them is different. Like, they can use on demand, they can choose next day delivery, they can do domestic, they can do international. There are so much more in all these different players in the market, right? But as a micro SME sellers, to us, it's always just getting from A to B, as simple as that. But behind the scene, there's so much complexity. And that's how Easy Parcel actually helps behind the scene to simplify the entire process flow.
I'm very glad, Clarence, that you've actually already started off the bat by focusing on the MSMEs, who are, of course, the smaller sized players, but not necessarily a small part of the market, right? Now, interestingly enough, the latest annual Logistics Performance Index, LPI 2023, actually shows that Malaysia climbed 15 notches up to 26th place overall. That actually makes us the second best performing in the entire ASEAN region. However, usually what the OECD or other wider trade bodies are actually acknowledging and recognizing is that it's the larger SMEs with the bigger cap who are doing better when it comes to representation and also being helped by the entire logistics sector. Can you tell me a little bit more about what the SMEs and the MSMEs who are kind of like hovering at the adoption crossroads, and how, in your experience, the journey has been going for them? Is there still a lot of resistance, even given the fact that we're now definitely post-pandemic and things are moving towards a far better and smoother supply chain organization?
Very, very good question, because I think this all goes back to the pandemic as well, right? Like, thanks to the pandemic, on the bright side, a lot of companies also started to look into digitalization. And throughout this entire process, people started to understand how important it is, right? Like in the other days, or even today, when we talk about commerce, we don't really split the line between e-commerce, non-e-commerce. It's all about commerce as a whole. So how business actually scale and grow upon what they have been doing over the past many years. So definitely digitalization is one of the key. So when all these entrepreneurs or even businesses started to venture into that path, they started to notice that, hey, how can we improve our day-to-day based on what the market really has, rather than everything have to start from scratch. They have to develop everything in-house, and literally all this is cost. And you are definitely very right, as in when you talk about a lot of SMEs in the bigger size, they already have the scale, right? And versus the smaller ones, how can they really go against the market and fight on the same path? So that's how important it is, as in adoption of technology, finding the right solution, um, saving their time and even effort in getting the right space to work on.
Absolutely. And moving from there and shifting into the logistics market. So, of course, it's also poised to grow significantly by 2029. What are some key trends which you've noticed as one of the more prominent players in Malaysia's industry, Clarence, especially for SMEs? And how is Easy Parcel positioning itself to be able to address these growth areas, which also, of course, come with some challenges?
Technology is always the key. If you talk about key trend, everyone wanted to scale, right? And especially if you look at the people cost, and in every country that we are in is always increasing. So how can all these SMEs actually leverage on technology to be the heart of how they scale? So it's very similar to like you can't miss a good teh tarik in a mama session, right? So technology is always the key in the center of every businesses. And managing processing orders, like tracking shipment, um, instead of like they have to do it manually, having a big team, then platform that can handle bulk orders. And of course, how can all these processes be automated, right? Like getting the lesser people to actually do it, and that actually simplified the entire process. And even human error, I think that's always the key. Then how can they leverage on system to make decision? This is always the most challenging thing, right? In life, not just only in business. Getting the right information, insights for them to make the call as a business owner is always the key things.
So getting the right information and in time. We'll dig deeper into that a little later, Clarence. But first, I'd like to refocus our attention to another huge growth and impact sector for logistics players, which is, of course, ESG or ESG impacts. So how does Easy Parcel intend to manage this? Or could you tell us about some of the latest updates when it comes to ESGs and how actually the logistics sector, Scope 3 emissions-wise, what kind of parameters do you have in place, or are you planning to put in place soon enough?
Yeah, very, very good one. When we talk about Easy Parcel as a brand, a lot of our customers really thought that we are actually the delivery guys on the road, where you will see pink color guys coming over to your door, performing pickup and delivery. But actually, we are not. Easy Parcel is actually a platform. So we work with all the logistic providers that you can name off. They are all our partners in the platform. So literally, we don't really manage the operation of our courier service providers directly, but as what your question actually come from, how we actually contribute to the environment, right? So when we talk about deliveries, when we talk about parcels, how many packages has we received every day in a week, right? So that actually contribute at a big scale on the packaging itself, right? So to
Absolutely.
actually counter that particular part, Easy Parcel actually distribute recyclable flyers, the pink one that you always receive, that actually came from us directly, and we don't really charge for it. It's all come free. And so far, we have done more than 62.1 million of these recyclable packages. And as user behavior change and improve on e-commerce, definitely the numbers will even grow bigger. So that's how we wanted to play a small part as a startup to scale up, and definitely there are more we can actually do. Then to add on a little bit as well, like if you look at a lot of our local courier service providers in the market, a lot of them started to use EV to actually do their deliveries and pickup. And we will also be partnering with all these providers to even pushing more, as in how much effort they can do with what they have been doing, and how can we actually encourage more people to actually to use or even to partners even deeper on providers that has been working alongside with ESG that is beneficial to the environment.
Exactly. What I'm hearing is that, you know, you're trying to actually incorporate every aspect of sustainability from the get-go, meaning which you're not even transferring over any single material which is non-recyclable, which is a great start. It augurs well for the rest of the supply chain as well, hoping that they're going to hard-code sustainability, because that's the only way a business stays sustainable these days. Clarence, moving along from there, I'd like to focus on looking in greater depth at the levels of automation that Easy Parcel is currently already deploying along your platforms. Let's look at the life cycle of it. So the logistics landscape has really rapidly evolved, and Gen AI is, of course, has been the buzzword for the past 8-12 months already. What are some of the day-to-day and also medium to long-term impacts and successes that you're experiencing because of integrating this into your business platform?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, we call ourselves as a technology company, but a lot of people might have the perspective as in, hey, you guys are tech company, so you guys must be having a lot of AI behind the scene, while AI is the big topic of town, right? Where everyone's talking about, hey, I'm AI related. I have processes with AI driven. Surprisingly, we only started to venture into looking into how AI works about potentially 12 months ago. Uh,
Right.
Not really as in jumping into the session to really launch it fully, as in when it's a buzz in town, right? So we only started looking into AI, how can we actually simplify the process, and more coming from the internal side rather than the customer facing side first. So we always wanted to really explore new things, as in this is our gen in our blood. But of course, when we do the exploration, we also wanted it to be mindful and also be impactful. As in, a lot of team members might think, hey, can AI replace my job at one time? Right. So this is also part of the consideration, as in when we launch new thing, when we engage with something new, we also have to be mindful. So that also part of the intention when we actually started about 12 months ago. So throughout that particular journey, actually a lot of breakthrough has been done. Our team actually managed to exponentially improve their efficiency more than like 3 to 4 times as in their workload, and just using the same headcount of team members. So instead of like using 2 days or 3 days, or instead of using like potentially 2 weeks or 3 weeks of work, now they can actually complete everything in 2 days. So we actually up the level and value of the team members. Instead of they worried as in, hey, will my job be replaced? But instead, they can actually do more with less.
And that just makes me curious, and I have to ask you, so what kind of support and training, reskilling or upskilling has the internal headcount actually received over the past 12 months to allow them to be able to scale up and actually deal with this very fast, adoption of AI over the past year?
Definitely, there are a lot of small mini programs that we have been having it internally. And the very recent one, we just came back from China, Hangzhou, by attending one of the AI conference. So some of our key team members has just been together with me to see what's happened on the crystal ball on the other side of the world.
Right. Of course, I think that's actually very, very targeted of you, considering that, of course, for the past decade and a half or so, China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner as well. Would that have been behind the thinking as well, to look towards China to see what technology is coming out?
Definitely big yes, as in what can we learn from all these big giants out there, right? And definitely is to be there yourself and to feel it and to try the experience, and that is the best learning curve from every one of us.
Absolutely. So moving into how SMEs actually, in your experience, have been adopting ESG to ensure also, in a sense, cost effectiveness, because it's not only that ESG is going to become part of the deliverables which all companies, especially those who intend to be listed or who are on their way to that, need to incorporate into their annual reports, but it is something that leads to a better bottom line. What have you been seeing so far?
I think if I talk about internally, ESG is always one of the key things that we have in mind. Although, yes, a lot of people might be talking about ESG is only related to big corporates, right? And as a lot of startups that we are now serving, they might be saying, hey, this is something too big for us, right? But to us, a lot of things is always starting small, right? Just like Easy Parcel in the early days, 10 years ago, right? Everything started from a dream. But look at how much empowerment that we have been doing behind the scene for the local SMEs. So everything started small, but it can lead to a big journey at the end of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So even on how we design our workflow, how we actually put through the partnership that we have been doing with courier services, and how can we actually enable not just the customer side, enable the courier service, but how can they be efficient as in what they do is always related to efficiency and cost. And that's how we channel that cost saving to all these micro SMEs.
Absolutely. So I feel that there's an opportunity right here, Clarence, for you to perhaps emphasize on how, even though adoption of ESGs, particularly for the smaller players, is initially seen as cost heavy, but at the same time, why is it actually more of a non-negotiable, and what kind of cost-effective strategies have you seen the more successful smaller players adopt when it comes to addressing ESG parameters?
We don't really see much as in the micro SME portion, but I think that is also the key intention of why we are chit-chatting today, as in how can we actually bring this know-how, this opportunity to more micro SMEs for them to really understand or even to start small. That's what we see in what we have been doing, because serving a big mass customer pool, that is actually one of the leverages in how can we actually work this out together in even providing the education level, and what can we see from other bigger players that we see outside of the globe that is doing, and how can we channel that even just technology know-how to all the micro sellers here. And I think that's an important role that we are going to play soon.
Exactly. And I'll just tack that to a wider number that comes out from the Sustainable Finance Institute of Asia's estimates from end of 2022, which estimated that Malaysian SMEs risk losing around 292 billion ringgit in capitalization due to non-ESG compliance. So this is no small issue that we're discussing here. Moving along from there, Clarence, let's move into perhaps one of the most impactful and continuously challenging arenas within the logistics sector, which is labor shortages. Now, how has Easy Parcel viewed this issue, especially over the past few years, and what role has technology actually played in helping to overcome the challenges of this?
As a tech platform providers, right, we don't really deal with handling direct labor costs from our
Correct.
courier service providers, but make things easier by streamlining logistic operation through automation is always part of what we have been doing behind the scene. So let's say take it from the customer perspective, right? Um, SMEs can actually use our platform for bulk order uploads instead of like you do it one by one. And imagine few years or many years ago, right, when we wanted to send a parcel, what we do, right? We have to fill out the manual piece of airway bill, and it's a carbon piece of paper, and like 3 ply, 4 ply, and it's so manual, right? And imagine if you are actually serving the e-commerce market where you have volumes every day, right? How are you going to do that? And I still remember at one point, a lot of customers actually hired intern to actually handwritten all these airway bills at one point. So many years ago, we are the first to actually introduce um, airway bill that actually you can actually print online, and now it evolved even for like bar uploads, where you can actually do everything in one shot, just simple click, even through an Excel to upload, right? Then automated label generation will be coming out from your normal printer. And just an A4 paper, it can be print out the airway bill. Then, of course, that is the first phase of getting delivery done and ordering, right? Then it comes to tracking of the parcel itself along the journey. How real time the tracking can be done, and how efficient can that be, right? And how advanced where you already know the status of the parcel itself before your customer actually knowing it. And how can you inform your customers beforehand if there anything goes wrong? So all these are the small things that we have been doing behind the scene to improve and or even to level up the workforce of our micro SME
And how are
sellers.
some of the, what is the usual margin of error involved in such completely digitized uploads and addressing of all the issues which comes with making a bulk order?
Okay. The system itself will actually prompt the user, as in if there is anything wrong, even address checker, right? The system will instantly prompt as in, hey, postcode A doesn't really tally with the address line that you actually put in. So
Right.
instantly, the first layer of control or even checking is already happening rather than the parcel get delivered to the courier service sorting center, then parcel got stuck because of the address error. Then even further down, it will uh, enhance further on the operation side, right? Just imagine address is wrong. Then what happened on the cost side of the logistic providers? Back and forth. Even the delivery guy have to go to the wrong address. So technology can actually help in the first layer of entrance, right? And that is actually one of the solution and one of the example that what we have been doing.
Good to know. Thanks very much for that, Clarence. Now, as we're moving to closing the discussion in a while, but first, though, I'd like to focus on the fact that Easy Parcel has, of course, managed to expand to 4 other countries around Southeast Asia. Tell me a little bit more about the journey of this and how we are doing right now, from your perspective, particularly in one of the bigger markets, which is, of course, Indonesia.
Yeah. Currently, Easy Parcel is in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. And definitely, when I mentioned about the word easy, is always easy for the customers, and it's never easy behind the scene, right? And the biggest challenges when we look at Southeast Asia, a lot of the perspective is always about, hey, you is one, and it's easy to scale, right? You just chop and then just replace and copy and paste. But behind the scene is never that easy, and especially just taking language as one of the topic to talk about, right? When we talk about, yes, we speak Bahasa, but the Bahasa that we spoke here is definitely not the same as the Bahasa we speak in Indonesia.
Sure.
So localization is always the key context, right? Like if you can't really understand by communication, it's definitely not easy for you to scale a business outside. So getting to know what's on the ground, how you localize your product, even potentially your key USP for what you have here might not be the key USP for a new country. I'll take it for example, right? The example that I shared earlier on handwritten airway bill, digitalize it where you can print it online.
That's
When you
right.
come to a country where labor cost is not the key, people is so willing to even handwritten because the cost is so low, right? Why should I digitalize my process? So
True.
that is also things that we never thought of
Barriers
when
to adoption, right?
exactly.
All right. So yeah, different challenges in different markets. And I think what's interesting, which I would like to ask you is, so with Indonesia, of course, being a market that is multiple times the size of Malaysia and even Thailand put together, as well as Singapore. So how do you hope to be able to expand in that vertical where also labor shortages are no issue? So it can be a bit more difficult to promote technology first as an angle.
Yeah, I think from our end, we always need to relook back into why expansion has to be done, right? So when we look into the reason why, and then you actually pair against on our own strength. Of course, always people can always say that, hey, you guys are a technology company. You can scale globally anywhere you like to go because it's just a technology. To us, finding out our own strength is always a key. And for example, right, when I said language is one of the key barrier, and potentially the new expansion might be English speaking country. So it might not be just Southeast Asia, but the other side of the globe.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Clarence, I'd just like to end with getting a couple of your thoughts on, of course, as a logistics tech startup, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities and challenges for not just new players, but also overall in Southeast Asia as well as Malaysia over the next cycle?
Definitely e-commerce boom in Southeast Asia has already offered a huge opportunity, and that actually grown over the past many years since the pandemic, right? And by also looking at that, consumer now expectation is also different. If you look at the early days until now, I don't think any of us will still accept parcel to be delivered 7 days after the order being placed. So reliability, expectation on the speed itself has really changed today. So that actually indirectly saying for newcomers and to come in to join the playing field, this is their opportunity. And players will have to stand out, whether it's from the last mile deliveries, from the tech-driven solution, or even strong focus on sustainability like ESG, right? So one of the recent famous signature fried rice that everyone knows about it, everyone's actually doing it, but you need to have that special twist to make it a success.
Exactly. So it's all about that special twist. Clarence, thank you so much for this really insightful conversation, and we wish you all the very best with the next 10 years and beyond for Easy Parcel. Thanks for joining us on Niaga Spotlight.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have time today on Niaga Spotlight. We'll see you again next week with more business highlights and updates. I'm Tamina Kausji signing off. Here's to a productive week ahead.